Electricity, 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 electricity. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. A Sunday stream, kind of light on the news. I got a couple items, but because it was a little bit light on the news, I said let's do a top-down sort of thing and look at an old magazine. And I've had this one for a while. This is Life, July 19th, 1948. So we're like a little over 75 years ago. You will notice my thumb over here covering a mailing label. This was a subscription. Has the dude's address on it, and it's 75 years ago, but I thought, I don't know, maybe I should cover it just in case. $6 for a yearly subscription on this thing. And that would come to about $80 nowadays. But you got like 52 issues, and it's a big magazine. You can tell, obviously, large cover size. I mean, here's for comparison's sake. There's your standard comic book. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We got a girl on the cover in a bikini. It is 1948. The bikini has arrived, and it's on Life magazine, which was not, known for being a. I don't know if it was like a conservative magazine per se, but it was, it wasn't racy. It wasn't scandalous, generally speaking. So the bikini was pretty much already, accepted. It's funny. I was talking to my wife about this issue. I'm like, remember that Life magazine we got way back when? I think I'll show that. I go, did it have Marilyn Monroe on the cover? And she's like, yeah. She goes, it might have. I pulled it out and I'm like, oh, no, that's not Marilyn Monroe. Maybe resembles her a little bit, like in her Norma Jean phase, but, so I figure we'll sort of flip through this dude, look at some of the, get that centered somewhat. Yeah, look at some of the ads, look at some of the articles, what they were talking about, and we'll just chat about a few more current day things as well. It's in pretty good shape for something as old as it is, but there are some pages that are loose in the middle of it. But, so what do we got? We got Schaefer's. The finest writing instruments, this kind of stuff you get a lot, like graduation. I remember my uncle sent me some nice looking pins for graduation. I'm not sure if I ever actually used them. They were too nice. And we got Working Out with Bob Feller, Rapid Robert, Fireballer, and Strikeout King. As a kid on Dad's farm, learned control by pitching into barrel. Bob's ballpark workouts under blistering sun are a threat to his hair. So he plays safe with Vitalis. And that was, that's when we were still going for the wet look. The dry look was coming, but it wasn't there yet. P.S. Your barber is an expert. He knows how to keep your hair looking its best for summer. Ask him about Vitalis and the individual sanitary seal tube application. So there you go, guys. Maybe we should just start doing that. Men, let's all go back to the wet look. Let's all go to our barbers, ask for some Vitalis, and just go for it. And, the ladies are just going to have to put up with it, whether they like it or not. We got Ruth Hussey over here. Star of Republic's Eye, Jane Doe. She was also in Philadelphia Story. She's good, very good in that. With a Cocker Spaniel. This is for Friskies. Friskies Cubes. Friskies. I think I remember Friskies was still around when I was a kid. So you got all the stuff on who did what in this thing. What do we got? Headache, upset stomach, relief, bromo seltzer. Who tops in telephones? It's U.S. There are more telephones in this country than in all the rest of the world put together. USA, baby. All right. Oh, look at that. 49 Ford, the car of the year. That's great. So we're still, even though you got the photos on the cover, and there's photos in the magazine too. I mean, there you go. There's a photo of an electric clock. We're still at the point where you get an illustrated ad. ads, which I don't know, man. I like them. I like them better than the photographs. I mean, I'm weird, but that's just me. What do we got? A cartoon up here from Tom Henderson. Train's gone, mister. Your clock must be slow. Oh, why don't you get yourself a General Electric clock? Well, it's not really a cartoon, is it? It's a cartoon, but it's not really meant to be hilarious. It's meant to sell you an electric clock. And I feel betrayed. I feel used. I feel kind of dirty. I think I kind of like it. That's great. 49 Ford. So no fins yet. We got the what do you call it? Hood ornament. There's a new Ford in your future. These magazines, and I can remember this even when I was a kid, so, a bit later, did tend to open up. Oh, no, thank you. LOL. All right, well, that seals it. I'm definitely going for the wet look now. They always opened with a lot of ads before you get to any of the articles. They always front loaded it with ads. Brighter breakfasts, rise and shine. What do we got here? Oh, it's Swift's premium bacon. Oh, look at that. I like the tomato slice. I like that. I like the plate too. That's kind of cool. It's kind of groovy. Sunsweet prune juice. Because, sometimes it's hard to poop. Letters to the editor. The president's trip. Okay, my head might pull in front of things a little bit here, but I got to get close to read this. I was one of the 40 or 50 Washington correspondents on the 2-week Truman trip and must protest the article in the June 21 issue of Life. Your declaration that his crowds were small just isn't so. I am no Truman enthusiast. I am just disheartened by irresponsible and snide journalism. Richard I. Strout from the Christian Science Monitor. All right. And then here's the answer. Life went to press before President Truman had completed half of his trip, thereby reporting only the early mistakes and mix-ups. The president gathered momentum as he progressed, and by the end of the journey had thoroughly recouped his false start. Life regrets that the time element caused a one-sided picture of the tour as a whole. So you can see it's not massively different from today in terms of the press. Now that seems like a pretty decent excuse. I don't know that they were lying, and I don't know that Life had it in for Truman, but then again, maybe it's possible. Phillips Milk of Magnesia, also for folks who couldn't poop. That was a big thing back in the day. You go through old magazines, there were a lot of ads that were all about helping people be more regular. I guess it was a bigger problem. I don't know. People these days definitely seem to be full of crap. But at any rate, for the 1 man in 7 who shaves daily, a special preparation for shaving. Oh, okay. So I was mixing. I'm like going, how does that turn into Milk-Bone Tiny Bits? I see. That's a second. Okay. There's 2 ads there. Makes more sense. Arrow shorts. I know they did shirts. All right, so there's also undershirts, apparently. Made by the makers of Arrow shirts, Cluett Peabody and Company, Incorporated. Now folded into a massive global corporation that doesn't care if you live or die. To the husbands of women who drive. Double protection against road hazards. Yeah, what we need, though, is protection from women drivers. Am I right, guys? Actually, it's kind of funny that ad didn't actually get into that, because this is the golden age of jokes about women drivers and stuff like that. It was part of the culture. You have to accept it. It was our culture at the time. Chassis lubrication. Now here we got a little news about nylon. From DuPont, news I think all of us gentlemen are happy to get. But again, more the illustrated ads than the photos that are going to be coming along later. Nylon was the future, man. Like, they were convinced everything was going to be nylon, polyester. Like, we were leaving normal fabric back and behind us. There might be a little of it left, but cotton, wool, flax, whatever, that was the past. Everything's going to be made out of plastic. Did not work out. So keep that in mind when something new comes along and they tell you, well, that's it. This is how things are going to be from now on. There will be no reversal. There was a reversal. By the time you're out of the 70s and into the 80s, real cloth was making a big comeback. Now, sometimes it was a blend, but the point is we didn't go full polyester everything the way they were convinced we were going to. We also didn't go full microwave cooking the way they were convinced we were going to. People went back to the ovens. Well, they never really left the ovens, the broilers, the stovetops, the frying pans, etc. So technological progress is not irreversible. Well, we're calling it new technologies are not inevitable. They really do need to serve people and do what we want. Now, that doesn't mean microwaves or polyester went away. They just didn't dominate. They didn't take over the world the way they were supposed to. So keep that in mind with a lot of this other stuff that they're telling you you're going to have to get used to. You're going to have to accept. You have no choice. Always a choice. Always a choice. Hey, let's talk about one news story here at this point. This will mean something to D&D players, even if you don't recognize this guy. This is Lou Zocchi or Zocchi. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I've never heard it said out loud. He passed away this week. He was the first guy who started producing all those wonderful weird dice that we use in D&D and other role-playing games. Those things were produced in plastic, usually for just sort of like teaching geometry and things like that. This dude kind of took it to the next step and put the numbers on the dice. Now there he is with a couple. Are those the die? Those might be the die 100s that they did at a certain point. But he was responsible for a lot of that, and he was, a big part of early role-playing game scene and stayed with it. Kind of a beloved guy for old school role-playing gamers. And he did some games as well. I have this somewhere. I gotta find it again. But I bought a game that he had done, published. I don't know if he wrote it, but he published it. That was like, it was like Starfleet battles before Starfleet battles. So it was Star Trek ship combat, but more rules light than Starfleet battles. And I want to say it came with a dice too that was in this like plastic package it was in. I need to dig that out and take a look. I'll probably do a video on it at some point. But so he did a little of that stuff too. But like kind of the godfather, kind of a great uncle of role playing games. So people didn't have to use the chits, the little pieces of paper. Oops, wrong hand. Do it with little pieces of paper or cardstock with numbers on them that you would pull out of a sack. That's what people did at one point to generate some of these numbers. He comes in and basically saves us and gives us the dice we needed. So Godspeed to Lou Zocchi. One of the important figures in making role-playing games. I would say more mainstream, because hey, the dice are fun. The dice are fun to play with, even if you're not playing a game. That makes it a more appealing thing than pulling little pieces of paper out of a sack. Absolutely does. A couple other bits I wanted to talk about. A couple trailers that came out recently. So one of them is Coyote versus Acme. Now, this is another film that Warner Brothers had shelved along with, what was it? The Day the World Blew Up, the one with Porky and Daffy that I really did enjoy. So this one also got shelved. It's been resurrected. Now this mixes live action with cartoons. And I'm not always into those in terms of some of the more recent Warner Brothers things. Don't dislike them, but they haven't been hilarious to me. So I was kind of met on this thing. A lot of people were very excited about it, which is cool. But I was kind of like, whatever. We'll see. But I got to tell you, it's a good trailer. They did a fine job on the trailer. It got me interested in this thing. So I don't know. I might go, maybe I'll go see it. There's a few movies this year that I might go see in a theater. This wasn't one of them. And now it's on the list. The Masters of the Universe one is gradually slipping down the list into no thank you territory, but it's not quite there yet, but it's getting there. It's kind of like that James Gunn Superman where, maybe I'll go see it. And then with each new release of an actor or director or producer talking, I go, well, yeah, I don't think so. So we'll see what happens at Masters, but that Street Fighter thing looked pretty damn fun. I'm almost positive I'm going to go check that one out in the movie theaters. So we had Coyote versus Acme. So it's a good trailer. I suggest go take a look at it. You might like it. I think they did a good job. Obviously you don't know what the movie's going to be like. Maybe the movie will be terrible, but they took a person who wasn't that interested and made him interested. So kudos to them on the design of the trailer. Now this other one is also going to hit with the old school D&D crowd. Saw this one on Twitter. It was posted by a very cool dude called Yodano. Dude loves his Dragonlance, but he's the kind of guy you want in your hobby. Like, he's just positive and he's having fun and loves the old stuff and goes to the cons and, he's the right kind of dude in my opinion. So I've been following him on Twitter for a while. So, I did have another picture. There we go. There's a little image from Coyote. Okay. So if you are old school D&D, you will no doubt know about the Chick Tracts, comics put out by Jack Chick that painted Dungeons and Dragons as a pathway into black magic, Satanism, the occult. We were all, learning spells and we were sacrificing people. And that, of course, is why nerds back in the day were so incredibly popular with girls because of all the black magic that we had at our disposal. But he helped launch or fuel the satanic panic that a lot of people had to go through. Now, I'll be honest with you, I didn't. My parents weren't, they knew it was a game. Like, they weren't worried about me. They knew I had my head screwed on tight, so it wasn't an issue for me, but I know it was for a lot of people. And some of the folks who sometimes are in the chat, I know had to put up with having the books taken away, thrown away, burned, etc. So some folks have managed to get the rights to turn the Chick Tracts into a movie. And it is a parody. Now, I noticed in it, they don't talk about D&D. They just use the term RPGs. So they didn't have the right to use the term D&D. That's fine. But this is the woman introducing these two girls to D&D, and it's like lifted pretty close from one of those Chick Tracts. Of course, the movie is called Dark Dungeons. Now, this is an indie film, probably not a huge budget to it, but I got to say, what I saw in the trailer was pretty good. It looked like the quality was decent. I mean, it looked like a lower budget indie film, but it looked decent. So I don't know. I don't think this is probably getting a theatrical release, but it's going to be out there. So you might want to check it out. Laugh at Jack Chick and some of his ideas. I have no idea exactly where the movie goes, how hardcore it goes on things. Like, I don't know exactly what they're doing with it just from the trailer, but it did look, like a parody. And there is apparently a cameo in it. Now you can barely see that, but this tentacled fellow shows up just as that woman is saying, "Oh no." She says, the Necronomicon and the Cult of Cthulhu are quite real. And there he is. So it looks like it might be kind of fun. It was, I bookmarked it when the guy, posted it on X, like, a week ago at least. I was going through my bookmarks. Oh, is there anything I want to talk about in the stream? And I'm like, oh, there's this thing. All right, yeah, let's watch the trailer. I mean, because my first thought is like, oh God, who knows? Is this just like a little fan film or something? But it looked pretty decent, man. It looked pretty decent. So that might be something for folks to look forward to. Again, no harm in making fun of the panickers at all. Ooh, Pitfall. Dick Powell, Elizabeth Scott. It's a good flick. Good flick. But I have to admit, and Raymond Burr's really good in it. Raymond Burr, famous for playing Perry Mason. But Raymond Burr, I think his true greatness was in playing really creepy guys in film noirs. Because damn, he's good. He's a creep in this thing. Major creep in this thing. But I have to admit, having watched it, it's a good flick. It's worth a watch. I'm like, dude, I wouldn't choose Elizabeth Scott over Jane Wyatt. I really wouldn't. Now, I know I'm a more domestic kind of guy, but I'm like, yeah, I don't think I could make that move. Jane Wyatt's pretty rad in this movie. Good flick, though. If you never watched Pitfall, it's been on YouTube, for free, so to speak. So you might want to check that out. Good flick, though. Good flick. Nice full-page ad, too. Nice full-page ad. Produced by Sam Bishop. I'm trying to think who did the cinematography. Based on the novel A Pitfall by Jay Dratler. Screenplay by Carl Camp. I like how they get everybody in there. Are you satisfied with your pictures? Ensco Film and Cameras. I mean, everybody knows Kodak, but there were some folks competing with them back in the day. The U.S. picks a strong Olympic team in the infield of Deitch Stadium. Francis Delaney's enormous muscles send the shot hurtling 55 feet, 1 3/4 inches, 2 feet over Olympic record. Hell yeah. So this would have been, was there Summer Olympics in 48? Well, let's see. We had 80 Olympics. So, but there maybe was a little bit of a hiccup during World War II. Yeah, interesting. This is the kind of stuff you got in Life magazine. You'd get stories like this on the news, radio, and TV. There was TV in 48. It wasn't as big as it was going to become, obviously. But it was weekly news magazines like this where you got a closer look at everything. They had a little bit more time to write the article. And then you got this amazing photography that Life was known for. And it was such a big, it was a big magazine. So you got a really good look at this stuff. These are always, I think this might be the only vintage Life magazine I happen to own, but it's definitely something I wouldn't mind owning more of. Because they're just cool. Oh, there's the discus thrower. Very cool. Javelin. So my dad was in track in high school, a little bit in college. Very good at track too, by the way. And he told me about when he was in high school, he was at a track meet. And they got the guys throwing the javelin. Now, of course, the track goes all the way around. They're in the infield. The track goes around the infield. So if you imagine, this is sort of your track. This is what old guys do when they tell stories, by the way. We got to draw it out for you because we can't rely on you to understand the complex things we're talking about. So this is your infield, this is your track. So they got like the guys over here throwing the javelin. No problem, right? There's guys over on the track who are warming up for races. They're over here. Javelin ain't going to get all the way over here. That's not something they're worried about. So it's okay that these guys are over here working out. Dude launches one right through a runner's leg. Needless to say, they changed the safety rules at that point. I mean, it's like, it's got to be sad because you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest javelin throw I've ever done in my life. Oh, I've just thrown it right through a dude's leg. That kind of kills the excitement a little bit. Oh well. But anyhow, so here's our Olympic track team getting ready to go. Berlin under siege. Out of the city's ruin and frustration, a strong new spirit rises and challenges the West to hold its military and moral position. By Emmett Hughes, by cable from Berlin. So obviously what we're talking about here is the airlift going into West Berlin. The Soviets held East Berlin, and they held East Germany, which Berlin is in the middle of. The Allies held West Berlin. That was the rule post-war. West Germany, to the U.S. and Allies. Soviets had the Eastern Zone. Berlin also divided. So the Soviets decide, well, you can have West Berlin, but we're going to close it off from everything. So we'll see how long you can hold on to it, because they obviously didn't want this little piece of an American ally, NATO ally, in the middle of their territory. You kind of understand. I mean, screw them, they were evil, but you kind of understand strategically what they were going for. So we did have rights to fly in. Now, an airlift is like a tricky thing. If you've ever studied anything in terms of military logistics, if you're doing any kind of major movement of stuff, you need boats and ports. Planes can't move that much, that efficiently. They're useful tactically to get things in, small things in quickly into something. But if you have to, if you're trying to hold a position and the only thing you can rely on is airplanes, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tough. So you generally need a port, and then you need to control the territory, roads, trains, whatever, to get to the battlefront to keep your men supplied. So being able to do this, to keep a city supplied with things, with aircraft, was a major endeavor. And this is what magazines like this are really cool for, because these are historical events for us. But it was happening, live in person at the time. And I think sometimes history starts to become just like a story. It starts to blend with fiction in a weird way. And it's cool to read these and be like, oh yeah, that was just like we're tuning into the news or whatever and seeing stuff that's going on in Iran right now. That was what these folks were doing with the Berlin airlift. Two Arab kings end an old feud. Abdullah and Ibn Saud, meeting for the first time in their lives at the Riyadh airport, walk hand in hand to one of the royal cars. Carpets were laid at airport from Ibn Saud's luxurious tent to the runway where Abdullah's plane landed, and to waiting automobiles. After this initial display of emotion, the kings were friendly, but impassive. So we're talking, was Abdullah with Jordan? Okay, but then it was Transjordan is what they called it. No, not that kind of trans. Yeah. Well, Middle East would never figure into our politics again, so no big deals there. General Ike's nose. These are editorials. Back in the day, you could have news articles and editorials. They weren't the same thing. General Ike's nose. They suggest our political morality has improved. Russian inventors, an ironical Soviet case for undirected scientists, which is always an issue in the Soviet system, is giving people any freedom, and it holds them back oftentimes. Always buy Chesterfield. I'm satisfied because it's Chesterfield. Rosalind Russell starring an independent artist's new picture, The Velvet Touch, an RKO radio release. And here's William P. Wiseman. Why? I smoke Chesterfield. I'm addicted. Well said, sir. Oh, and then the glory of its age, folks, that you just don't quite get anymore. Well, because we just don't get magazines anymore. The liquor ad. Especially when you started getting the photographed ones that I can remember from looking through old magazines in the 70s and 80s. There was a certain look. There was like an art to these things. And I've often wished, and maybe it exists, I haven't really looked, but I'm like, you could actually do a pretty cool coffee table book that just reprints all these glossy photographed, and maybe some, some other painted ones too, but the photographed booze ads from like 70s and 80s magazines, 60s, especially from that period where it's like, the swing and jet age and everything. And they really tried to make this stuff like super important to your lifestyle, Interesting. The parents wait. Their 4 sons who were killed in war are brought home to Utah. Wow. Wow. In one 6-month period during the war, Mr. and Mrs. Alban Borgstrom of Garland, Utah, lost 4 sons. All were killed in action, each in a different part of the world. Clyde Borgstrom of the Marine Corps died in the Solomon Islands on March 17, 1944. Elmer Borgstrom of the Army was killed in Italy on June 22nd. On August 8, Roland Borgstrom of the Army Air Force was killed over Germany. 17 days later, his twin brother, Roulon, died in France. Wow. Whew. And lest we forget, and at their age, like, I don't know if they had other kids. I'm not going to read the whole article. But they're not having any more, any more sons, obviously. To raise people that long and lose them that way. Man, that is tough. That is really, really, really tough. There's pictures from the funerals and stuff. Oh, man, that's crazy. If you can drive a car, you can learn to fly. Oh, God. Yeah. Well, I've seen a lot of people driving cars, and the last thing I want to do is see them fly. No, thank you. It's wise to go Whizzer, America's finest bike motor. So we see all those. Let's see. Is that like is that like an electric one? Let's see. 2.5 horsepower, 4-cycle design. No, okay. Because it almost looks like it's designed for just putting it on a bicycle rather than for a motorcycle. Interesting. This is the cemetery. Godspeed to those guys. Sleep in silence, waken for sure. Telecron, electric clocks. Golden horses. Breeders are trying to produce true strain of valued Palominos. Look at that skinny little dude right there. Oh, what is this, though? Hunt's tomato sauce. Look what happened to last night's leftovers. Whew, I don't know if I want to look. This shepherd's pie really shows you the magic of cooking with Hunt's tomato sauce. Budget magic. The economy was getting better post-war, but it wasn't perfect. Well, it never is. But good for the budget. What do we got here? 2 cups diced cooked meat. 1.5 cups cooked leftover carrots. 1.5 cups cooked leftover string beans. 2 cans Hunt's tomato sauce. A half cup leftover gravy. 2 teaspoons Worcestershire sauce. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. 3 boiled potatoes, thickly sliced. Melted butter or margarine. So basically, leftovers in a casserole. Dude, it's probably pretty good, to be honest with you. It's probably pretty good. Palomino Mariner colt meets standards of breeders. A coat the color of newly minted gold. This mother's Palomino is worth $3,500. Okay. All right, let's check it out here. What does that give us? $3,500. I'm gonna get real accurate here. July of 1948. We're gonna get the month in there as well as the year. Not messing around. Would be worth about 47 grand today. Although I would bet that's just using the CPI calculator. I would not be surprised if it would be more than that. And you want to know how electronic stuff invades your brain? To turn the page, I started to grab for my computer mouse so I could click and the page would turn. Yeah, it gets into your head, man, even when you don't mean it to. What do we got here? Some Carling's Red Cap Ale. Very nice, very nice. Got the golf thing going. Oh, mid-century modern, man. And what do we got here? Wow, movie of the week. Paisan. Italian film deals realistically with the American soldier at war. A bored, battle-weary GI and a prostitute are the principals of the third episode of Paisan. She drags him to a rented room where he begins to talk about the beautiful girl who gave him water 6 months before during the liberation of Rome. As he talks, the prostitute realizes she is the girl, but that he does not recognize her. Okay, I don't know if I've ever heard of this movie. Don't know if I've ever heard of this one. Interesting. I might check that out and see if I can find it. But think about this, too. This is, right, 1948, people think of it, it's the Eisenhower era. Everything was very sanitized. This is Life magazine. This is like one of the most broadly read magazines in the United States. Like I said, this is not like a scandal sheet. They're talking openly about stuff like that in the middle of the magazine. Things were not as sanitized as you might think they were. I think what happened is similar to how people in the Renaissance wanted the Dark Ages to look really primitive. So they kind of lied about it, or maybe just didn't know any better. The 60s boomer generation wanted the previous era to seem incredibly, tight and incredibly repressive. And frankly, a lot of stuff they said about it or tried to intimate about it was BS. A good counterexample of that. Well, and I don't know that he wasn't maybe really a boomer. Maybe he was, but watch the early episodes of Happy Days. They don't pull a whole lot of punches. It was still on, regular TV, so they couldn't go too far. But basically, the early episodes of Happy Days are about nothing else than Richie and Potsy and Ralph trying to get laid. And that was about it. Here's our Pall Mall's famous cigarettes. Look at this ad. That red, which blends with this, but it's still, you can make out the cigarette package independently of it, but just the red, the white really stands out, man. And then you got it paired with the black and white photography. And that is great. The work that went into laying these magazines out back in the day, unbelievable. Back when you had to do everything with like X-Acto knives and stuff, which people were still doing not super, super long ago before Photoshop showed up. But because I work with a guy who's younger than me, and he's been doing kind of like that ad work stuff. That's been his job forever. And he had to do some X-Acto stuff early on before everything went fully into Photoshop. Here we got King Black Label Blended Whiskey. It was almost always blended whiskey back then. Okay, now this article I knew was in here, and I wanted to bring this one out because it's another real piece out of history. This is, they're fogging. So what are they fogging? Well, they're trying to kill bugs. And what they're using is DDT. They're using DDT. So now that's illegal in the United States, even though it does get some use outside, because what they discovered when they did the fogging, the chemicals in this stuff were having an impact on birds, including the bald eagle. And they were laying eggs that were like paper thin. So the birds were crushing their own eggs when they were sitting on them, and this threatened the bald eagle population and other populations. It was a real problem. DDT, though, is now used in spray form, a liquid spray form. It does not impact birds in that form. It's important in tropical areas to control mosquitoes, which spread a lot of disease. But the United States still has it banned. They won't do it. But at the time, what was cool about DDT was the fact that it was not dangerous to humans and other animals as far as they thought. So here we have in West Orange, New Jersey, children romp in fog after the fog truck. So they just run through the DDT fumes. Here we have Kay Heffernan at Jones Beach, New York, as she eats a hot dog, drinks pop. Unlike dust or spray, the fog will not contaminate food. Boy, I got to take your word for that one, but I don't know that I would. And by the way, the Heffernan, I'm like, oh, that was the name of that. That was Doug Heffernan from King of Queens. Makes you wonder if the Heffernan name was based on people that he knew or something. Here's a dairy barn. So it's just one of those interesting things. I think they may, I don't know if they continue it later. Can't remember, but I remember when I first opened this and read it, I was like, oh my God, it's the DDT thing. So what have we gotten in here so far? Like, historically speaking, we got the Berlin airlift. We got the DDT, things were jumping in 48. Bonnard, last of the great French impressionists, has given a big show in America. That's the other cool thing about these mags, is that they covered pretty much everything. Art, politics, science, etc. I don't know that I'm not really familiar with his work. I got to be honest. I'm not a mega artsy guy, but I like it. But this is interesting. It's a little, I don't know, a little different from some of the impressionism that I've seen. Yeah, it's a little, I can't try to think, a little more rough. What your doctor wants you to know about rutin and its value in cases where high blood pressure is present. Rexall drugs. You can depend on any drug product that bears the name Rexall. And I mean, they sponsored the Phil Harris Alice Faye show. So if you can't trust Phil Harris and Alice Faye, I don't know who you can trust. Only one tire gives you what they're getting. The new Super Cushion by Goodyear. Look at that big, bold. Oh man, the graphic design in these things is really excellent. And things changed after this, and I don't know that they changed for the better. Well, we've gotten midway through the magazine. Let's look at a few more things. I didn't have a lot in terms of coming attractions to talk about, but we do have free comic book day coming up. Here's a little ad I got from my local comic shop. That's next Saturday, May 2nd. And so I was looking at what are the offerings this time around, anything interesting to me. And there actually were a few that I thought looked like they might be good. We have the Cimmerian. Because of trademarking, they can't put his name on the cover. The Pool of the Black one. This is from Ablaze. So basically, Conan public domain. They try to do comics that are very true to the source material. And I've read one of them. It was good. So I might check that one out. Free comic book day. There's a World of Archie one. I might take a look at that. I don't know if they're going to do any. I don't think it has any reprint stuff in it, but we'll see. It's Archie's 85th anniversary. People kind of forget Archie's just about as old as Batman and Superman. He's real close. So 85th anniversary this year for Archie. And they're doing a bunch of stuff. And I think this is kind of designed just to show kids or young people or whoever what they offer at Archie Comics, which is actually quite a lot. It's kind of impressive. This looked pretty cool. Flash Gordon #1 from Mad Cave Studios. First issue in a new series. So we'll see. Now, this is black and white. And I think maybe it's just the free comic book day one is black and white. I think maybe it'll be color when it goes to the, to the regular series. But we'll see. We'll see if it's cool, if I want to stick with that one. I am definitely a Flash Gordon fan. So if anything, I'm inclined to want to do that. We got Conan, Tides of the Tyrant King. I think this is, who's doing Conan now? Is it Dynamite? Whoever it is. So this is Conan versus Thulsa Doom. Conan is just like an amazingly readable character. What I mean is, even the pastiches, even the sort of rip-off Conans, they're often pretty entertaining, even if they're not as good at what Robert E. Howard was writing. They're oftentimes pretty fun to read either way. So I'll probably try to grab that one. I don't know what the crowds are going to be like. I might not be able to grab everything I want. This one kind of has that 70s, 80s exploitation action vibe going. Gun Honey doubles down. I think there's more coming from this in terms of like a regular series. And then finally, this one did catch my eye. The Greatest American Hero. I loved this when I was a kid. I loved it, man. And I did a rewatch and it didn't hit me quite the same way that it had when I was younger, admittedly. But I gotta be honest, I'm definitely interested in taking a look at this and seeing what's up with it, because it looks like it could be kind of fun. And it said in the description, let's see, it's from AMP Comics, Greatest American Hero #1, claims now in this, it's going to be Ralph. He has a son, so it's him older, and it claims to give him the ending he deserved. So apparently the ending that he did not get on the TV show. Now, I know in the TV show, they did a version with like a woman where he passes the suit on to woman. What were they? Was it just like the Greatest American Heroine or something? I think is what they called it. Something like that. And so, I mean, it's sort of got an ending in that regard back in the day, but I guess maybe they're gonna rewrite the ending for this one. So let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah. Oh, that's good. That's the last thing I'm going to talk about on this stream. Let's flip through the mag a little bit more. And it's a quiet stream. I don't think there's almost anybody viewing it. That's okay. We'll keep it up. People might want to check it out later. Glowworms, their bright taillights help snare insects in dark New Zealand caves. So this is the nature section. So again, it kind of did little sections of things. Talk about different stuff that came up. Globules of mucus in large threads. Well, that's just what everybody wanted to talk about at the time. Prince Albert. Do you have Prince Albert in a can? Bigelow rugs and carpets. Got some little rooms there, which shows you 48. We weren't quite in mid-century modern just yet. It's still a little more. I mean, it was always more traditional than a lot of people think, in terms of decor. But Ford's out in front with the car of the year, the one and only new car in its field. And again, this is a painted one. I think the car ad stayed painted for some time. I think because they were just able to make them look cooler and better. But that's kind of cool when you see like the little side cut. Oh, back then, those old cars. I got an old Chevy, or I had an old Chevy. It's still around, but it's like you're sitting on a sofa when you're driving a car or sitting in the back seat. It's pretty rad, honestly. International Sterling. The Masked Spooner, a Hollywood mystery man, talks and pants his way to radio success. What? Okay, a girl at a Hollywood poolside watches the town's newest eccentric, the Masked Spooner, appear only in his mask and a pair of trunks. Okay, so this is some dude on local radio? All right. I'll just read the very beginning here. The mysterious gentleman cavorting in the pool above is a Hollywood radio singer who calls himself the Masked Spooner. This name does not derive from the amphibious attentions which he is paying Miss Dorothy Harrington, but from a peculiar singing style he has invented. The masks and accompanying paraphernalia are artfully contrived to hide the Spooner's real secret, that he is not a famous movie star, as many of his listeners believe, but only a little-known radio announcer. The Spooner redefined spooning technique about 6 months ago in a Saturday night sustaining program for ABC. Instead of singing the lyrics of a popular song, he recited them throbbingly, with frequent pauses punctuated by heavy panting. This technique had a dynamic effect on West Coast bobby soxers and made spooning a radio fixture. Okay, I mean, I know another term for spooning, but clearly this is something different. What the? Dude. Again, this is why you want this kind of stuff. Oh, look at that. There we go. Because you discover crap that you didn't know ever friggin' existed. And I've read through this magazine before. Apparently I put this guy out of my thoughts. Eating through mask is difficult for Spooner, shown here at Brown Derby, since Hood has no mouth opening and spaghetti must be passed under it. Arguing with cops is routine for Spooner, who is harassed by Los Angeles ordinance forbidding use of masks. Here, his two bodyguards assist him. Well, of course, the funny thing here is the mask means he does not have to wear a mask if he's out in public, just walking around, because nobody knows his identity. Fleeing the studio, Spooner changes clothes in car. He often dresses an associate in costume, appears unmasked with him to keep public confused. I'm going to have to look that up and see if we can figure out what his real identity was at this point. Or is this a forgotten story? How bizarre. You could take some images like that, though, and use them to, like, create a golden age superhero. It's got the look, right? Crazy. Ooh, Vornadoes. I got a Vornado fan, and it kicks butt. The fan company ended up part of like what was it? Like a real estate corporation or something like that. And I think they spun it off. So they're making Vornado fans again, but they're great fans. New swirl suds in soap scum. Soap scum was one of the great national nightmares that we had to live through. Bubble bath, no bathtub ring. All right. We're getting, sex sells, guys. That's how it is. The lens that sees behind itself. Captured German equipment photographs more than half of a sphere. So there's ordinary lens. And there is, so we get a little bit more on the sides. All right, well, I'm surprised they didn't manage to win the war with that kind of technology. What is this? Oh, this is diamond rings. 1/4 carat, $90 to $210. 1/2, $260 to $525. 1 carat, $665 to $1165. 2 carats, $1615 to $3470. All right. This is average from a great many stores in February of 1948. I'm sure they're a lot more expensive now. Have a chilled Milky Way. She doesn't look that happy about it, honestly. I think a bunch of people showed up to her house, which she wasn't expecting. And she's like, crap, I'm going to have to give them my chilled Milky Ways now. She's planning on having those that night. Just a little Milky Way party for herself. Now she's stuck. I do like those old wrappers they had, though. There's those lenses again. U.S. Royal golf balls. Yeah, golf was getting a lot bigger, man. A surfboard enthusiast skims California Comer. Fun on the beach. Yes, the surf thing did not start with the Beach Boys, everybody. It was going around. Life shows the kind of fun Americans are having this summer, from tricky surfboarding riding in California to crabbing on Cape Cod. So we get a bunch of beach photos for the July issue, which kind of makes sense. Let's see what we got. What did the beach look like in 48? Not massively different, I think, from the beach nowadays, except, in California, you're not allowed to legally have fun on the beach anymore, like you did in the old days. But other than that, so we got people jumping out of airplanes and landing face first. No, he's doing some kind of flip. We got a fat guy on some kind of a little motor scooter. We got people doing weird tan designs. I don't know if you can make that out. See if I can bring it in a little closer, but she sort of has like a tan in the shape of a diamond on her stomach, which I think people still do a little bit of that. Utopia for show-offs. Yeah, here's the blanket they're tossing people on. Man, we were a different country. Wow, they got a little racing on that one. Propped on one elbow, Miss Baby Lake gets once over from a college boy, unaware of photographer. His friend watches him succumb with alarm. What is going on? Friendship buds as college boy gallantly offers to zip up back of baby's bathing suit. I'm telling you, man. Now, some of this stuff was like staged because whoever Baby Lake was, she was trying to get into movies or whatever. And so they would do these staged photographs. But let's see if we can find. I'm going to do a search for Baby Lake, and I'm probably going to be sorry that I did. Yeah, Baby Lake, Minnesota. Let me put actress behind her name. Maybe she was an actress at some point. No, there's somebody who was born in 79. It ain't her. Lake Bell. Nope. See the cast of Crybaby then and now. All right. Well, that might take a deeper dive to figure out who the heck Baby Lake was. But, she was definitely trying to get attention back in the day. No doubt about that. Grape juice battle. What are they doing? Squirt juice from water pistols. Oh, eliminate opponents by scoring direct hits on hearts painted on chests. Dude, that's pretty rad. That's pretty rad. So you paint a heart on your chest of your shirt. And if you get a direct hit with the grape juice, which is going to stain, so you can't hide it, then you're out. Oh, it's like, it's like a primitive form of paintball. Fascinating. All right. Okay. Crabbing in Buzzards Bay, Cape Cod. Dusk on the beach finds Californians still playing horsey or stretched out sipping spiked watermelon punch. Let's get crunk. All right. Man, good times, folks. Here's the rest of that Berlin article. That's a really cool map, dude. So there you go. There's your Berlin Wall, basically. Or maybe did they have, that might just be for they didn't have a wall around the entire city. I think that's just for illustrative purposes. But I'm trying to think if they were building the wall yet at that point or if it was finished. But there's a Soviet sector over there, American, British, French. There's the Reich Chancellery, the Brandenburg Gate, the Tiergarten. Wow, that's a really cool map, though. They had to, the fact that they were doing all that stuff without any of the computerized doodads we have nowadays. Mrs. Paradine is on trial for her life. Valley is Mrs. Paradine in David G. Selznick's production of Alfred Hitchcock's. I think it's actually Paradine. I'm saying it wrong. The Paradine Case. Starring Gregory Peck, Ann Todd, Charles Lawton, Charles Coburn, Ethel Barrymore, Louis Jordan, and Valley. Yes, I know. I'll reel it in as soon as I finish breakfast. Wheaties. Gotta eat your Wheaties before you bother fishing. You give up the giant friggin' tuna there and just enjoy your Wheaties. Good Lord. Gotta have perspective. What is this? Pure Castile is the best shampoo. So selling some shampoo. Underwood deviled ham canapé. All right. We're almost through with this dude. Oh, there's a little Lulu. Look, mister, Kleenex jumps up too. So there you go. We're doing commercials with our comic strips. Do you have sore, tender gums? Stop chewing on nails. Dry clean it yourself with Super Renews It. Oh, is that like the... Yeah, I remember Renews It was still around when I was a kid. They're stroned. The hell does that mean? Chic blades. Not just honed. Each blade stropped and honed. Stropped on 30 feet of leather. They're stroned. That was a good try. I don't think that one caught on. Good try. Oh, that's kind of cool. Doing a quilt with all the different state shapes. All right. I like that ad. Very nice. Very nice. Frau Leber lost her husband to Hitler's headsman. Now she is fighting what she calls a moral battle for a free Berlin at the heart of a united Germany. And it would be a long time before they would get to that united Germany. And don't know if it's really paid off the way some people were hoping. Dixie Belle, a favorite in gin. Who's this? Standing in happy dream world of peppermint lollipops, 11-year-old Toni Harper saucily sings the catchy words of her candy store blues. Wow, I'm 9 years old, but I'll soon be 24. The man I marry gotta own a candy store. I love it. And that's copyright 1948 by Leeds Music Corp. Okay. So Redcap's daughter, 11, makes big hit with a tune about candy store. Very cool. I think I might have actually heard that at some point. There's the fam. Redcap was a guy who worked at the train station. He was like moving stuff. I think technically Redcaps are still around at airports and things. Family portrait on the Harper's back fence shows Tony's brother Henry Jr., 9, her father, who was a Redcap in Los Angeles Union Station, her mother Fedonia Harper, who once danced in the Cotton Club chorus, and Tony. The girls' earnings this year are expected to total approximately $20,000, which ain't bad in 1948. Wow, what is going on here? Okay, now this is Photoshop in the olden days. That's how you had to do it, man. You had to cut that image out of another photo, insert it into here. You would have had to cut that part out so you could put it in front of her. And then they'd re-photograph it so the whole thing would sort of blend a little bit better. It was a lot of work. That was an insane amount of work. Now you go into Grok and say, show me a picture of a little lady sitting in a thing with a giant baby next to her. And you might get what you're looking for. Yes, Tissues. I like that friggin' logo. That logo feels like something you're going to get in the, like the 60s or something. Again, some of the styles that change. The Royal Order of the Garter. Life attends the celebration of its 600th year. There we have Princess Elizabeth. So there she is, I believe, back there. Who would become queen. And, we won't talk about her successor. Look at that. That's nice, though, that color photography there. Photography. I speak big words. You can get a Tony perm for only $2, ladies. You have no excuse. Don't be telling me a perm is too expensive. You can get a Tony for $2. Come on, step it up, ladies. Get real, for crying out loud. You name it, gas has got it. Cribbin and Sexton Universal Automatic Gas Rate. Some of those old ranges are friggin' incredible. Here we have the golf ball retrieval. Golfers gadgets. Oh, okay, new gadgets for golfers. Now that you associate with Eisenhower's America for sure. And here we have, try these delicious cool rum drinks made with Merito. That would not fly in it as an ad anymore. The Puerto Rican Mountain Rum. And on the back, we're smoking Camels. All right. Man, it is a light stream today, not only in terms of what I have to talk about, but in terms of who showed up. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm blacklisted now by YouTube. Got a couple things I'll show off, and then we'll go ahead and wind this one up. A few items I got from the comic book shop this week. We'll move that out of the way so it's not in the way. That makes sense. Move it out of the way so it's not in the way. Let's see if we can adjust down a little bit. We'll zoom it. Oh, there's been some lurkers. Yeah, all right. I guess people are busy today. That's cool. These are just casual streams to chat. So, new facsimile, Detective Comics 577, Batman Year 2 Part 3. So they're reprinting Batman Year 2, basically, is what that's all about. So I grabbed that one. They had a Man of Steel facsimile, but it was just a foil cover, and I'm not that into foil covers. And I grabbed a few back issues, kind of almost at random. Grabbed a Brave and the Bold, Batman and Rose and the Thorn. I think Rose and the Thorn is cool. I read some of their stuff in the old Lois Lane comics that my buddy gave me 30 years ago. Maybe even more than 30 years ago. So I'm like, I'll check that one out. Found an Adventure Comics. You got the JSA, so we got Power Girl in there, Dr. Fate, Wonder Woman. There's the Flash up front. Always a big fan of that. Flash, Wonder Woman, Deadman, Aquaman, the Justice Society of America. Very cool. Grabbed that old Adventure Comics. We got the Spectre on the cover. Looking really, really, really cool. Man, I love that stuff. And I grabbed a couple Jimmy Olsens. Now, these are in somewhat rough shape, but Jimmy Olsens are just so friggin' insane. And I remember this stuff used to be dirt cheap. Dirt freaking cheap. The reason my buddy had a bunch of old Lois Lane comics back in the late 80s was because they were like 25 cents in the bins. They were nothing. And now they can go for quite a bit more than that. And I think it's because people realized they're nuts. They're absolutely friggin' nuts. And that makes them kind of cool. So here we have Jimmy Olsen on behalf of the Legion of Superheroes, straight up killing Superman with kryptonite. And it looks like the only person who wants to spare him is Lex Luthor. Oh, and Brainiac. What kind of twisted tale is this? How could this be? That was the point of these things. This is from what, 65. So I got those. And I've been lurking on eBay looking for one of these. This Wave sold out like in 8 seconds. There were 2 figures I wanted out of it, Deadman and Nightwing. So I've been lurking. And this one came up as a figure that was no longer in the package. And that's okay with me. Yeah, I mean, it still had the card and everything. That's fine. I was going to take it out of the package anyways. And it was about the same price it would have sold for in the first place. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to snag him. Well, it arrived, and it is definitely still in the package. It's unopened. There's nothing, So I don't know. I either I read the thing wrong, or I ended up getting one that was still on the card. But either way, I'm going to take it off the card because that's what I do with these. But I finally did get the Dead Man one, so maybe Nightwing will show up at some point. I'm a big fan of the old Nightwing costume that it seems like every other real comic book fan hates. But I like weird costumes. What can I tell you? I have my own ideas about things. Well, folks, thanks for everybody who was there in the chat, which would be, let me go, Lady Wendolyn. Yeah, that would be my one chatter today. But that's cool. Other folks had things to do. I'm going to save my little chat about the Legends of the Superheroes for another stream. Since we got such low attendance on this one, I will save that up because it took a little bit of time to grab all the imagery for it. So we'll hold off on that one. Next time, maybe we'll throw that in because I might have another slow week in terms of news. Coming up this week on the channel, we've got Thor number 352, where this is our Mighty Thor Monday with Walt Simonson's Thor run from the 80s. We're right in the midst of the sort of the climax to the first storyline he was working on. Couple more issues to go on that one. And then the big finale. And it was a big finale at the time. On Wednesday, I got a video I'm going to record today, taking just a little retrospective of the Shemp Howard solo films. Solo shorts, but also movies that he soloed in. This is after he left Ted Healy and the Stooges. He had a career of his own before he came back to the Three Stooges after Curly had his stroke. And they're pretty good, and it's worth taking a look at them. So we're going to do a little retrospective. We're not going to look at every single thing that he did, but we're going to hit some of the highlights for folks who want to go, celebrate Shemp's entire catalog. And on Friday, we'll do a quick review of the old Star Wars Escape from the Death Star board game, a board game that I did not know existed at the time. In fact, I got it right over here. All right, let's see if I can reach over and grab this thing without knocking anything down or destroying anything. All right, I did it. Yeah, so we're going to take a look at this game, Escape from Death Star. It's not the Death Star, just Escape from Death Star. Fun little game, obviously a kid's game, but we'll take a look at it and the graphics, etc. I don't remember this from my childhood. It was something I saw, golly, I don't know if it was like on eBay or in an antique store, and it was like, I think it was on eBay actually. I was like, what? I don't remember that game from when I was a kid. And then I happened to go to an antique store maybe a week or two later, and somebody had 3 of them for sale at like $10 a pop. So I grabbed one. So we'll look at that, do a little review, little show and tell. And that'll be it for Dad's Den of Pop Culture live in the den today. A very, very slow day, but hopefully folks are out there having a good Sunday, having some fun. You can always listen to my nonsense later, that's for sure. But thanks for anybody who did tune in. I really appreciate the views. And we will end as we always do with God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. And I will see you soon, hopefully, in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.